Aloha, everyone. This is Jean Russell of Dolphin Touch Wellness Center in Kauai, Hawaii, dolphintouch.org, and creator of Dolphin Energetics. I help people connect with the energy and vibration of the dolphin for physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. We do physical, and at our center here, we do massage, Reiki, we do intuitive readings. I take people out in the ocean and we do dolphin energetics in the water and help expansion with that. And then we do trainings. I teach Reiki, intuitive healing, and the dolphin energetics. And we also do workshops, retreats, and everything else. We have a wonderful retreat in Mount Shasta coming up in June. You can go to our website for that. And it's a Lemurian Awakening retreat where we talk about Lemuria and the connection Kauai and Mount Shasta, which if you've ever read the book Telos, talks a lot about that and everything else. And today, my guest is Toby Christensen. I've known Toby for 8, 9, 10 years, a long time.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I met Toby at the Inspiration Expo, which I was helping to coordinate with Charavello, and I organized all the volunteers, and Toby was offering his healing drumming sessions. So Toby does a beautiful modality of playing the djembe drum over the heart chakra. I got to experience that. It was amazing. I went to another dimension in another lifetime. All of a sudden, I was in Africa dancing around a fire while he was playing this drum over my heart chakra. And I was just like lost in the power and the energy of it. It was so, so powerful. Toby has done cowrie shell readings with me and very, very powerful and right on, by the way, where he can tell you a little bit more about how that works. I would rip it apart and I explain it properly. But it was a very instrumental and I would say very accurate reading that he did. And then he also created this soundtrack. And Toby's going to tell you all about this a little more specifically, but the soundtrack was activating certain things. So for me, it was like activating energy in my business and to kind of turn the energy up, turn the volume up, and get people walking, running in the door, actually. And yeah, it was very powerful and created a lot of shifts with my business. And, I went to another level on my practice and it's been great. So Toby, welcome. Thank you for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. It's so nice to be here. I miss you so much, and I miss the center so much. I haven't been to Kauai in quite a while, well, since before COVID. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks before the world shut down, I was at your place doing cowrie shell reading training, and
Oh, that's great.
um, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
So yeah, I'm still doing the cowrie shell readings. It's a form of divination that's based on a 5-element system that I learned from my teacher Malidoma Somé back in 2007, something like that. It's I was intrigued by it because my first experience with the Dagara people of Burkina Faso was that particular process. And it blew my mind how this guy could like never have met me, knew nothing about me, and he told me everything about myself and difficulties that I was having that I didn't say anything about. And then the thing that I loved about that particular process is that there's always a solution that's proposed when an obstacle or a difficulty is brought up. I've had so many things where, Pluto's going around Venus, and so you're basically screwed for the next 5 years. And the thing that I love about this elemental process is that there's always a way to balance and shift the energy. So if you've got too much water, we get you cooking with some fire. if you're disoriented and there's all kinds of turmoil in your life, that's oftentimes an overload of nature, which is magic and transformation. It can be really challenging sometimes when you're going through a transformation. So then we bring in mineral, which is about organization and remembering. And so it's really it's a process that just blew my mind the first time I had it done. And after studying with him for several years, he's like, you've got to do this. And I'm like, well, I got this drumming thing going that's working fine for me. He says, no, you got to do it. And I'm glad I did. It's become
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's so cool. And the little figures, I had the little man that was outside the circle, and then slowly get in.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was really telling. Very spot on.
yeah. It's really it's a mind blower. I've been doing it. I've done thousands of sessions, and I still am just. It's just I don't even know a word to use. It's so fulfilling to watch information come to people that helps them find their way and that gives them a sense of hope. And oftentimes we'll follow it up with a soundtrack like we did for you, where we gather information with the reading, and then of course we know that everything in our lives is basically organized by frequency and sound and vibration. And by maneuvering that vibration, we can change things in our lives. And so once we gather the information, I will often do a soundtrack and put in the frequencies that will help a person shift into alignment with their desired outcome. So
Yeah, that's so awesome. And tell them about the drumming that you do. You haven't gotten to that part yet.
well, the drumming, I years ago I was in a very very difficult place. I had a severe cocaine addiction. This was way back a long time ago, and I didn't know how to get out of the grips of this lifestyle that was just ruining me. And when I met Malidoma, he and my therapist invited me to this men's group. And I had been a drummer since I was a little kid, and none of them knew this. But these guys brought out these hand drums, which I had never played before. But all of a sudden, he started playing a rhythm on a djembe. And I grabbed the guy's drum next to me and pulled it in front of me, and I started drumming along with him. And all of a sudden, it was like the container that had been holding me back from finding the solutions and the answers that I was looking for just cracked. And I remember just sobbing and just all the emotions, all the pent up anger and frustrations and all the feelings of failure and worthlessness and all that stuff. It was like an instantaneous healing just from the experience of feeling the vibration of the drum. And on my first trip back to West Africa, when I worked with the tribe, I noticed that these people were in this horrible. Burkina Faso is a terrible country. There's there's a lot of pollution there. They're just a landlocked country with like a big piece of sand about the size of Colorado. But I was amazed at how happy and healthy the people were. And I asked Malidoma, I'm like, what's the deal here? He says, well, we drum and dance all the time. How can you be sick if you're drumming and dancing all the time? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
we've
wow.
kind of gotten away from that, haven't we?
Oh my God, it was just amazing. So I adapted some of the things that I had learned there to kind of westernize it, which is what you experienced, and drumming over people, bringing them into alignment with the five elements of their culture is basically based on a five element system: fire, water, earth, mineral, and nature. The things that our world is comprised of, the things that our bodies are comprised of. And if we can, the idea is if we are in alignment with the elements, we're in alignment with ourselves, the earth, and our community. And I just really love that sense of unity that the drum brings. They say that the sound of the drum is the tuning of the soul. And there's nothing about the drummer in that. So everybody, whether they're a beginner and can barely hit the drum, or whether they're an expert and can really rip off some great, riffs, it's all the same because the drum does the work. The drum opens the soul, and so it
Absolutely.
takes the
Yeah.
person out of it and allows for you, for example, laying down, receiving that drum energy
Yeah.
that helps to adjust and enhance your own energy.
Yeah, it's so powerful when you feel the vibration, especially when you do it, because it's really interesting. You got this djembe strapped to your chest and it's just floating up there and you're hitting it, where most people see a djembe on the ground. You're walking around with this djembe around. And then when you stand over someone and so all the vibration is coming straight through the bottom of the drum directly onto the heart chakra. I mean, it is so powerful and so vibrational and it just yeah, it's like cracking someone open and connecting with their soul. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful experience. So did you learn that like so you picked up that drum, you started drumming. Like how long did it take you to learn the five elements and to get that, or was that just like a natural thing for you?
Well, because I had been a drummer for a long time, it was easy for me to, get into the rhythm of the group, as the men started to play. Um, it was later, after I had studied with Malidoma for about 5 or 6 years and really learned the five element process and how all the elements interact with each other and the different energies, that I actually had a dream where Malidoma's grandfather, who had passed away, 50, 60 years ago, came to me in a dream. And I said, Bake, what are you doing here? And he says, I'm going to teach you how to play. And I'm like, okay. And then he says, this is the rhythm of fire. And he went through each of the elements and gave me a rhythm that would correlate to each of those elements. And they did not exist in this particular form. One of the things that I really wanted to do was to create rhythms that Western people could play easily. So you could come to a drum circle, somebody can hand you a drum, you can follow the leader easily and feel accomplished, as opposed to a lot of the African polyrhythms, which are really technical and really difficult to play. I wanted it to be fun. And when I had this dream, I immediately, I got up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I got to remember these dreams or these
Yeah.
rhythms. And
Wow.
that's where the five element drumming came from. And
Oh,
so,
so it didn't come from Melodona at all. It came from this dream that I thought you had learned it from him.
well, I learned about the elements and how they interact, which of course is how the drum beats interact as well. So it was a cultural imprint that I had to get a Western articulation of,
Hmm.
so that the rhythms were simple and easy. My idea was, if I do a 2 hour drum workshop, because I do these evening workshops, uh, just for people to have fun. I want someone to go away connecting to at least one rhythm that they really enjoy playing, because all the rhythms go with each of the other rhythms of each of the elements. So if you, for example, are drawn to the nature element, you would play a particular the rhythm of nature, and I could play the rhythm of earth, and they intermix perfectly.
Hmm.
So whatever element speaks to a certain person, or whether they're associated with that by their birth year or any of that sort of thing, um, it's all about bringing unity and bringing people together so that we're cooperative instead of competitive.
Wow, that's very cool. Do you think it's related at all to the fire, your zodiac sign? Like, I'm fire. Yeah.
They don't have the zodiac in their cosmology. I mean, there are similarities in the elements of, like what fire is about, what water is about, and that sort of thing. there's some similarities, but they don't have that particular model there.
I was wondering, because I'm fire and my husband's earth. So what does that make? I don't know. Like,
So in the Dagara, I'm fire and very heavy fire. As in my astrology, I'm heavy Scorpio, which is water, which is a water sign. A lot of the characteristics are the same, but it's a completely different model. And so I try and encourage people not to mix them up. It can be
yeah,
really confusing.
right.
Pick one.
Yeah, so you learn this drumming, and how did your life shift after that? You know?
Well, one of the things that happened when I got back from that men's retreat, I had all this anger from how I had completely screwed my life up with this addiction. And so I started playing. I just started hitting the drum. I hadn't developed the 5 elements at this point. I was just hitting the drum. Uh, and what I noticed was after I played for about 10 minutes, I started getting really happy. I could start off being really pissed off, and then I would drum and I would start getting happy.
Oh,
And I read this thing about from the Dogon tribe in Mali, and they're big djembe players in Mali. And they say that the head of the drum is the ear of God, so never play it timidly. The bell of the drum is the womb of the great mother that can only birth peace and healing.
hmm.
And so what I realized was I was putting my anger into the drum and it was being transformed into peace and healing. So all of a sudden I would be really frustrated, and then all of a sudden I'm feeling really good. And so I sort of developed a drum addiction,
Yeah, you've
which is
changed.
a really good one to have.
Yeah, that is a good one to have. Yeah, and what do you think that drumming does, why is it like for men especially, the sense of drumming? I think, women, not to, but there's a differentiation between what drumming, and that you have men's groups and that you get together. Like my husband was with Mead and Hillman and all this, and they were on stage, and they just had them drumming and when all men gather together like that, like what do you think that, is that core element that does something for them?
Well, yeah, and I worked with all those guys. I love those guys so much. And Malidoma and I did a bunch of rituals with them in terms of utilizing that. And I think the men's movement in back in the when it was early 90s, I think is when it kind of got
Yeah,
rolling.
early 90s.
Um, that it was a way to give the Western macho man a place to be exposed and allow their emotions to open. And it was really Michael Mead was a mythologist. You have Hillman that was a psychologist. And then Robert Bly, of course, was the poet, and Malidoma was the ritual master. And so when a couple of the events that I did with those guys, we were down in LA working with gang members, and
Oh,
the it gets back to the pure non-judgmental expression of the drum. The sound of the drum is the tuning of the soul. When you get together and you just let people play, whether they're skilled musicians, whether they have a sense of rhythm or feel like they do or not, it doesn't really matter, because there's a thing called entrainment. And when you have a specific intention, and that would be coming together, let's say, and you give everybody a drum, it might sound utterly chaotic for a little while. And then all of a sudden, the drum finds the rhythm and everybody is playing together. And I think that whole movement helped. And drum circles today, same thing, although I see a lot more women in drum circles now than I used to. which
Mhm.
is beautiful because in certain cultures in West Africa, they won't allow a woman to touch the drum.
Oh, wow.
And so it's nice to not have those rules.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but yeah, and I think that the drum was a nonverbal, energetic expression that a lot of men at that time really needed permission to open up to, and uh, and the drum did that for them. It was there was a sense of power, with the sound and the impact, and there was something kind of primeval about it, and at the same time, very soothing and nurturing at the same time. And they say in the village that everyone is born a genius, and it's the job of the village to acknowledge and support the genius that resides in each and every person.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
when Malidoma and I used to do drum circles, that was how we started. Everyone is a genius because people, they get performance anxiety. In the Western culture, we are so competitive. So, well, I'm going to sound really bad, so I'm not sure I really want to play. When you just let it rip, everybody comes together and we all acknowledge and help. If we're going too fast and some people are getting confused, we slow it down. If we, let people get loud, let people get soft, you get to do whatever you want. And we all make this wonderful music together that wouldn't exist by any of us individually, but by us all coming together and playing. It makes a beautiful cacophony of sound, and of course that sound is vibration that helps to bring us together. And I think that that's a real gift that group of men gave to the world, especially the Western world, who really needed it. You don't get that kind of well, the men that I encountered in West Africa did not have the limitations that a lot of us Western guys put on ourselves.
Mm.
They're very emotional, they're very expressive, they're there's a there's just a lot of openness and reality. I mean, they're just, here I am, and if you like me, fine, and if you don't, that's fine too. But this is who I am, and this is what I'll always be. And it was nice to see a culture where people are accepted for who they are, and they don't have to change, and they don't have to modify their behavior in certain circumstances. They're just who they are, and I think drumming gives you the freedom to do that.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we could learn a lot from those indigenous people over there. And what part of Africa is that?
It's called Burkina Faso. It's north of Ghana and east of Ivory Coast. So when the west coast of Africa comes up from South Africa, and then there's kind of a bulge that comes out like this. It's right in the middle of that,
Hmm.
and it's a landlocked country. It's about the size of the state of Colorado, and there's very little industry. Um, it's just a big piece of sand.
But they
They've
make a way. They make a way to make it work.
They really do. And my first trip in the early 90s was amazing because modernity had not found its way to the Dagara people. It was like going back in time 1,000 years. I mean, it was
Wow.
amazing. There was nothing modern. There were no phones, no electricity, no running water. I mean, it was tough. Um,
Wow.
but as the more times I went back, the more I saw the modern culture, you know, until my last trip was 2007, and they had cell phones and running water and
Wow.
electricity, and the tribal culture had pretty much been extinguished, and
Wow.
it was really heartbreaking.
So what would you say? Well, so that was back in the 90s. What would you say for today is the most that's needed, and you talked about rituals, and I think those things are important and they've kind of gotten lost. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that, the thing that we have in the West, is there's so much competition. And every time I remember Maladoma just being literally in tears. And he's like, I don't think we can do it, Toby. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, I don't think we can create village in the West. Every time we get a group together, it lasts for a couple of years and then it gets messed up because somebody's got to be a leader and somebody doesn't agree with somebody else. And then there's a fight and then there's a split. And Western people don't know how to work together. And, it's very clear in our political world today. It's very clear it's been in, a lot of religious communities, just a lot of divisiveness and a lot of divided barriers. And I think that that's the challenge that we face in the Western culture. And when you go to a place like Burkina Faso, everybody's got a job to do. And if they don't do their job, the whole village suffers. If the people don't plant the millet, if the people don't plant the papayas, if they don't harvest the vegetables, nobody eats. Here we just go to another grocery store. We don't need people. And I think that that's something that I really noticed. You don't have the luxury of not being in community when you need everybody that's in the community. And I think we don't have that in the West because of our convenience and the modern the huge massive production of food and the comfort and the isolation. I remember when Maladoma's mom came to California, when he and Sabonfu, who was his first wife, lived in a small 2-bedroom townhouse. And his mother walked in and said, "Where are the other people?" And Sabonfu goes, "Mom, this is just Maladoma and I. This is our house." She goes, "There should be at least 4 more families here." They don't get the isolation that we have here. A lot of us don't even know our neighbors. And
Right.
it's I think that's the difference in the indigenous cultures, is that because they need each other, everybody acknowledges the gift that everyone brings, and they are honored and appreciated. And they have some really good, solid history of how to resolve issues. And then whatever the elders decide is what the deal is, and they respect that authority. And so you don't get people circumventing the system. Although now organized religion has gotten into Burkina very, very profoundly and has dismantled that structure. And so now it's the religious leaders that are making the calls, and it's very different there.
Well, it's you mean in Africa? That's
In that particular part of Africa.
in that
Yeah.
particular part. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I think especially with the latest onslaught of information that has been exposed, I think a lot of people are losing faith in authority, if you will. There's, who do you trust? Who are you gonna trust? It's like you can't trust the media. They've already, like, okay, no, don't believe the media. Government, liars, hiding things, hiding and secrets and falsehoods that are being shared. You can't trust the government. You can't trust that, like, who's got your back anymore? Who's got your interest at heart? It's very confusing time. It's a very confusing time. It's pretty sad, but that's the reality.
It is.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going, but I do know, like, even here at Dolphin Touch and even my little community, is like people need to gather in community. That is so important. because it's very easy for people to feel isolated and disconnected from everyone else. And the sense of community right now is more important than ever. We gather, we have a women's group, we gather once a month. Very important. I mean, people tell me, oh my God, I look forward to it every month, and they love it and they love having it. The different events that we have here, we have dinners and health fairs and different, activities that we have, and people love that. It's like this need to gather and connect with one another. Um, where are you going to do that? A coffee shop, or a bar, even going to a bar, or when I was younger, it was disco. But
Ah, yes.
remember that? It's like this sense of communing and connecting and gathering is like, I mean, if anything, they gather online. They gather with online groups, Zoom calls or things like that. But that's missing that personal human element. So it's a weird time.
Yeah, it's, and I don't have an answer. I just do my best to utilize the virtual communities as much as possible, because it's better than nothing. But I think that there's a real need for that personal connection. Um, I remember coming in for years and years to the expo that we used to do on Kauai. I don't know if they still do that or not.
No,
You are, but shoot, I think I was there 8 years in a row, and just loved it. And all these people with all these different ideas, and there was such a wonderful sense of community and curiosity. I learned a lot of things about stuff that I had never even heard of, and like people who know how to commune with dolphins and stuff. And it was so cool because you really got to experience something that you otherwise wouldn't have, and people were curious, as opposed to so much now it's curiosity in not wanting to be taken advantage of, or not knowing what's real and what's not real in our AI world.
right. That's
It's
confusing.
crazy stuff.
Right.
And there's
Absolutely.
wonderful tools, that can be used for really good things. But then there's this other part, and it's like, wow, where do you draw the line, or who draws the line, or but I think that there's something important about being face to face with people, um, that's really important. I like to go out and listen to live music, and just being around people. It's so easy for me in my studio here to isolate and just do my own music, or to do my projects to help people, um, and really have no human contact for long periods of time. And it's important to get out and to meet your neighbors, and to meet your community, and contribute live and in person. I think it's really critical.
Well, you do that drum church.
Yeah, I
Tell everybody about that.
well, a long time ago, I was a Assemblies of God minister for 8 years.
Oh my
And
God, I did not know.
you didn't know that? Yeah, and
You were a minister,
I
Toby.
traveled around the country, United States and Canada, with a couple of gospel, rock and roll gospel groups. This was back when some churches wouldn't let us play because it was rock music, and that was the devil's
What
music.
year? What year is that?
Oh, 1976
Oh,
till 82, something like that.
my goodness.
And so what happened, I had some unfortunate experiences with the church, and decided that that was not a road that I wanted to continue to be on. And so I left, and one of my friends from seminary would call me periodically and plead for me to come back to the church and come back to his religion. And he was afraid I was going to burn in hell and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? You have your church and I have mine. And out of my mouth just pops, I have the drum church. And so I thought, I better put my money where my mouth is. So one Sunday, I just turned on Facebook and did a Facebook Live and of just drumming and then giving some positive message to whoever showed up. And I had like 200 people show up. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I love it. So the next Sunday, I did the same thing. And now it's been like 6 or 7 years later.
Wow.
Every Sunday, I at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. Sorry, it's really early.
It's
Whenever I would
six
stay on
o'clock
Kauai,
Hawaii.
I would have to get up. I would have to get up really early.
I never
And
watch you live, but I do watch the replays.
I appreciate that. So that's something that just started. And there's community. I have people from Brazil, Canada, Paraguay, UK. I mean, and they come together and they talk to these people have become really good virtual friends around drum church. And then during COVID, being a good Norwegian that I am, we represent or we acknowledge Thor's Day. Thor, of course, being a Norse god, and Thursday is Thor's Day. So I decided that for COVID, because the bars were closed, I would do have cocktails with my friends on Thor's Day. And I grabbed my guitar and I just learned some songs, and I have some of my own originals that I do. And I just sing for half hour, 45 minutes, and we all have a conversation just like if we were out at a bar. And when COVID ended, again, there was just this community, small group of people, 10 to 12 people. But these people depend on that virtual community for their one of the guys is a recovering meth addict. He said, I wouldn't be clean today if it wasn't for those two things going on in my life every week.
Oh,
Because he's got people to talk to, and it forces him out of isolation, and he can be vulnerable without being too exposed. And he's done some wonderful work in his recovery, and has now helping addicts. And it's been just exciting to see. Sometimes I'm like, geez, this is too much work, especially when I'm traveling. And but I love doing it. And as soon as I think I'm not going to do it, someone will write me a note, hey man, I was having the toughest day and I watched the rerun of Drum Church, and your message changed my life. So
that's awesome.
just got to keep doing it.
Toby, how can people find out about Drum Church and find out about your sessions, your cowrie shell readings, and your well, I guess you can't do well, you do classes, right? You have a class online that they could
No,
learn 5 elements. Do you still have that?
Oh, yeah, I do. It's on healingdrummer.com. And this is so terrible because I've let my technology just go away. TobyChristensen.com is probably the best place to find out about what's currently going on. But there's also some really cool stuff on healingdrummer.com. And there's some free stuff, some downloads for soundtracks and stuff that help build energy. Or, if you're having a bad day, it's a great place to visit and get some drumming. And then it also talks about some of the shamanic work that I do, soul retrievals and energy balancing and clearing and that sort of thing. And so yeah, healingdrummer.com or tobychristensen.com. Both of them also have information about the cowrie shell readings, which are really mind blowers and lots of fun.
Yeah, I'll have to get one of those recent for this year, right?
Yeah, do a 2025 overview and see what the year has in store for you.
Hey, would it be too much to ask you to do a little drumming?
I could do that. I'm going to have to adjust my.
Yeah, I know you might be.
We had our lighting issue,
but I'd love for them to hear your awesome drumming because it's so stirring. And there's something magical that happens when you just start drumming. It's just like transformative. So, yeah.
So just a couple minutes.
Yeah, just I don't know if you want to do a particular element or you want to go through all the elements, whatever you want to do.
I'll just run through the elements and so people can kind of get an idea of the drum vibe. But we always start with earth.
I'm gonna turn my volume up just to let you, because I really want to hear this. Okay. Why am I'm not hearing?
Oh, Zoom has a deal with their sound. I totally forgot this. When I do virtual stuff, I can't use Zoom because the sound cuts out.
Oh
And
yeah, because it was
it's the
cutting
way
out.
that the sound works with the recording and the video. What I so and I don't I thought they might have fixed it by now, but apparently not. But I had
No,
a
I
session.
couldn't hear anything. You cut out just
Yeah, I
when you
have to use
start
FaceTime
playing.
when I do drumming because Zoom doesn't allow it. I don't know if it's the audio video algorithm or what, but go to healingdrummer.com and look in the free resources, and there's a lot of good drumming in there. And if someone is a drummer and they're interested in learning the 5-element rhythms, I've got this little mini course, and I'll send you the YouTube video. Just email me at tobychristensen.com or healingdrummer.com, and I'll send you the videos so you can learn each of the rhythms.
That's awesome. Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube. If you put in Toby Christensen 5-element mini course,
Nice.
the videos will come up. But
Well, hopefully,
I also have the links in a little packet that I can send, and that make it real easy. You just click on the link and choose your element.
oh, that's so cool. So, we're looking forward to having you back on Kauai.
I'm looking forward to getting there at some point. I'm not sure when, but I miss the island so much. I had so much fun there, and really love the island and the people. And it's been, it was so fun. All the stuff that we would do, and my times at Dolphin Touch were very special.
Oh, awesome. We had such a great time. You got to meet my whole family
Yes.
and David and my daughter, Alexandria. I don't know if you met Sean, but yeah, it was just great having you and my girlfriend Laura, who's helping me with my oracle cards. There's her
Oh,
painting in the back, and
yeah.
oracle cards are just about done. We should have those released very soon, so stay tuned.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Well, Toby, do you want to talk about your project before we end, the one that's coming up in
Well, we just I've been working with this organization for about 4 years, and we ended up buying a ranch in Mexico,
that's
and
awesome.
we are remodeling it right now currently. But in the next fall, we're going to start the construction on a healing center, and we're going to have a music recording studio. We're going to have light therapy, sound therapy, massage therapy, Reiki, all these things. And we're completely off the grid. We're right on the Pacific Ocean. So there's beautiful views. There's a 7-mile pristine beach right out in front of our property. Um, we have horses there.
Oh
Matter of
my
fact,
God.
we're getting 3 horses on Wednesday.
Wow.
So that's coming right up. And so it's if you go, stay tuned to tobychristensen.com. I'll be doing updates and when we're ready to do retreats there. But right now, it's a very special land. It's 2 hours south of Puerto Vallarta. It's in a little tiny town called Maito. 150 people live there. It's out completely off the grid. And there's something very refreshing about being back to unmanicured nature.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, definitely stay tuned. Maybe we'll take a Dolphin Touch retreat down in Mexico.
Now we're talking. That would be a very good thing.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right, Toby. Well, thank you so much. We will post under this link your contact info and sharing your messages with the world. And we thank you for all the beautiful work that you're doing, and rock on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was so nice spending time with you today.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon on Dolphins, Lemuria, and Higher Levels of Consciousness podcast. Hui ho. All right.